Imagine discovering a button that ends every war, cures every disease, and stops all human suffering. But the cost is your freedom to choose. No more hatred. No more genuine humanity. Most people claim they'd press it for peace. Yet the moment peace becomes routine, we create conflict. We demand truth, yet crave comforting lies. And that's where Nyarlathotep wins. He isn't a conqueror. He's a mirror, proving that humanity doesn't need monsters. We create our own. This is Beyond the Villain, where we unmask evil, one story at a time. Tonight we reach the conclusion of Arc 12, the philosophy of despair. Over the last few weeks, we've watched tyrants and cosmic entities try to break the human spirit from the outside. Tonight, we examine something far more insidious. We are diving into the psychological abyss of the Persona 2 duology, innocent sin and eternal punishment, to dissect a villain who doesn't need to break us because he believes we are already broken. Nyarlathotep stands as one of the most chilling philosophical antagonists in gaming history. He isn't trying to rule the world. He's trying to win a bet. And the most terrifying part? He may have evidence that he's right. Nyarlathotep represents the logical extreme of radical misanthropy and existential pessimism. He functions as a cosmic prosecutor, weaponizing humanity's collective subconscious to prove that civilization is a fragile mask, and that given the slightest push, people will choose destruction over salvation. Before we begin, if you want to support Beyond the Villain, you can check out my Patreon or buy me a coffee. Links are in the description below. Now let's begin the unmasking. Most villains are born from a bad day, a betrayal, a loss, a moment that cracks their moral foundation and turns them against the world. Nyarlathotep doesn't have an origin story because he doesn't need one. He didn't come from outside humanity. He is humanity. In the narrative architecture of Persona 2, Nyarlathotep is the manifestation of mankind's collective shadow. Every repressed urge, every unspoken hatred, every trace of tribal prejudice, every violent fantasy buried within the human subconscious. He is all of it given form and intelligence. He exists in opposition to Philemon, who embodies humanity's potential for growth and enlightenment. Their conflict is a wager between hope and despair. Philemon believes people can rise above their nature. Nyarlathotep believes they will always crawl back into the mud. And look at how he proves his case. He doesn't drop meteors on cities. He uses the rumor system. In the reality he manipulates, if enough people believe a rumor, that rumor becomes fact. It sounds like a bizarre JRPG mechanic until you examine how information spreads in the modern world. A lie doesn't need to be true. It only needs to reinforce fear or validate anger. Once enough people repeat it, institutions react, markets shift, and lives are damaged. Nyarlathotep doesn't force society to collapse. He starts a rumor, steps back, and watches people tear each other apart. He doesn't see himself as a monster. He sees himself as a scientist observing a predictable reaction. To understand why Nyarlathotep is so unsettling, you have to look at the darker side of philosophical pessimism. Philosophical pessimism argues that life is fundamentally shaped by suffering, vulnerability, and limitation, while progress often disguises inevitable decline. This isn't ordinary cynicism. It's the cosmic extension of Arthur Schopenhauer's worldview. Schopenhauer argued that human desire traps us in an endless cycle. We suffer because we lack something. Then we obtain it. Then we become dissatisfied and begin searching for the next thing. Nyarlathotep transforms that flaw into an indictment of the entire species. His philosophy follows a simple line of reasoning. If human beings are fundamentally driven by fear and ego, then morality, law, and justice are little more than coping mechanisms. We don't want peace. We want the illusion of peace until our internal chaos finds a new target. And history gives him a compelling argument. Look at the cycles of persecution, exploitation, genocide, and violence that repeat across civilizations. Nyarlathotep points at humanity's darkest centuries and says, "This is who you are when the lights go out." But his worldview contains a fatal flaw: confirmation bias. He records every betrayal, every act of cruelty, every war. Yet he ignores sacrifice, compassion, and courage. He overlooks the people who run into burning buildings, the individuals who challenge tyranny, the communities that rebuild after catastrophe. He looks at the mud beneath our feet and concludes the stars above us never existed. Standing against this cosmic trial is the cast of Persona 2. Their philosophy is rooted in existential humanism. They don't defeat Nyarlathotep by claiming to be perfect. They acknowledge their mistakes, their regrets, their failures. But their argument is simple. Imperfection does not equal doom. This is a philosophical debate playing out on a cosmic scale. Thomas Hobbes versus Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Hobbes believed humanity's natural state was conflict. Nyarlathotep embraces that conclusion. He believes that beneath civilization lies nothing but chaos waiting to escape. The heroes reject that premise. They prove that dignity is not something we're born with. It's something we choose. Meaning is not handed down by gods. It is forged through decisions made when everything is falling apart. You don't need a portal to the Sea of Souls to see Nyarlathotep's philosophy at work. You see it every time you open a social media app. Modern engagement systems often reward the exact emotions he depends on. Outrage spreads faster than nuance. Fear spreads faster than hope. Conflict attracts more attention than cooperation. Entire industries profit from keeping people angry, frightened, and cynical. Over time, people begin to believe the world is nothing but corruption and dysfunction. Cynicism becomes a business model. We see the same pattern in political manipulation. Leaders throughout history have understood that fear is easier to weaponize than inspiration. Fear destroys nuance. Fear bypasses careful thinking. Fear convinces people to surrender freedom in exchange for security. Every time fear dictates how we treat one another, Nyarlathotep's philosophy gains ground. So here's the question. Was Nyarlathotep evil, or was he simply saying what humanity refuses to admit? If someone presented every atrocity humanity has ever committed, could you honestly argue that we deserve this world? The danger of his philosophy is not that it sounds evil. The danger is that it sounds intelligent. People often say, "I'm not a pessimist, I'm just a realist." But that's where the trap closes. Cynicism disguises itself as wisdom. It becomes an excuse to stop trying, to stop trusting, to stop building. Because if everyone is corrupt, then doing nothing becomes easy to justify. The value of examining this nightmare is realizing that ignoring our darkness is just as dangerous as worshiping it. We need an honest understanding of human weakness. We need systems that protect us from our worst impulses. But the moment hope disappears from the equation, realism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hope is not a denial of reality. Hope is an act of defiance. It is looking directly at failure, cruelty, and suffering, and choosing to believe improvement remains possible. Nyarlathotep remains one of fiction's greatest psychological mirrors because his tragedy is a tragedy of incompleteness. He looked at humanity's scars and decided the scars were all that mattered. So let's leave the question on the table. Is Nyarlathotep a cosmic monster trying to destroy humanity, or a mirror reflecting a truth we are afraid to face? This brings Arc 12, the philosophy of despair, to a close. This has been Beyond the Villain, where we unmask evil, one story at a time. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel to get the latest unmasking of every villain and check out my other videos. Thank you for watching, and peace.